This is a big night. Your friend Scott Walker got reelected. Your friend Chris Christie's having a pretty good night getting governors elected, and your colleagues in the Senate are having a very good night. I'll ask you sort of the inverse of the question I asked, or the same question rather, I asked Steve Israel, which is, what do you think the president's reaction should be to the election results tonight in terms of what he does, what agenda he pursues?
He should not try to go it alone with unilateral actions like executive orders. He should sit down with the new Congress and find out where we can work together. I'd like to put together some tax legislation or lower our tax rates to help American businesses. I think there's energy legislation we can put on his desk and probably get him to consider. I think we should do some border security legislation. I think there are a lot of things we should do to get the ball moving, get jobs created, get the economy growing. And, you know, we've passed a lot of bills, as you know, Mark, over in the House that are going nowhere in the Senate. We intend to move those. It looks to me like we're going to get the Senate, and that gives us an opportunity to vote on these bills, put them on the president's desk, and give him a chance to sign some of these bills and get some things done.
Congressman, you mentioned a bunch of stuff pretty realistic that I think you could work with the president on. Some of your colleagues in both the House and the Senate don't want to work with the president. They would rather pass bills so he can veto them and you all can have a political fight. What do you say to your members of your party who say part of your effort should be to put bills on his desk that you know he'll veto to have that political distinction?
Well, actually, Mark, I don't see that you have to do one or the other. I think you can do both. I think we should put bills on his desk that we think he can sign. We should work with him on bills that move our principles in the right direction. And yes, if there are certain issues we just see so opposite on, then we should define ourselves with our actions by passing bills that he may very well veto. I think we should do all of that. I think pass things that we can get things done, put things that may make him have to stretch a little farther and get something done that he might sign. And then if we just have differences of opinions, but we want to show the country what we would do if we could, if we had the presidency, what those policies would look like, we should do those too. So I don't see those as mutually exclusive goals.
Congressman Ryan, it's John Heilemann here. I'm curious if you can talk a little about your friend Scott Walker, who's won re-election tonight in Wisconsin, or at least apparently has. That was a super close race. A lot of people thought that he was done for just a month or so ago. What turned the tide for him and allowed him to win a relatively comfortable victory?
I'm really excited about it. I've been crisscrossing the state of Wisconsin with Scott for the last 2 weeks. What I think happened was basically momentum swung our direction for sure. And at the end of the day, it's just that his reforms are working. I mean, that's just really the brass tacks. He took a big deficit, turned it into a surplus. His reforms, which we call Act 10, are making it easier for school districts to bring innovative reform to our schools, and we're seeing better test results. We're seeing better education results out of this. So lower taxes, better economic growth, more jobs, reforming schools. The Walker reforms are working, and at the end of the day, that's the story that was told, and that's why he got reelected.
Do you think his victory tonight is resounding enough to send him hurtling into the 2016 field?
He's a very good friend of mine. He'd make a great candidate. I don't know what Scott's going to do. I think he was so focused on the governor's race. What I think Scott's victory shows you, though, is political courage will be rewarded by the voters. That's what I think the Scott Walker victory gets you. Political courage. This means other governors, other state legislators, and yes, people in Washington should not be afraid of tackling the tough issues of the day. He tackled the tough issues in Wisconsin, and voters rewarded him for doing that. That's the kind of leadership we ought to have in Washington as well.
Congressman, I'm going to hand you over to Al Hunt here.
Congressman, as you know, Dave Camp is retiring as Ways and Means Committee Chairman. He was somebody else is elected that seat tonight. In 2 weeks, your caucus is going to decide who's going to be the next chairman. Would you like to be the next chairman of Ways and Means?
I would, and it is my intention to seek that. Now that the election has had, I feel comfortable saying such things. Dave still has 2 months to go. We've got things to do in the lame duck with respect to what we call tax extenders. I'll be supporting him as our chairman in completing that legislation, but I will be seeking that seat.
And if you become Ways and Means Committee Chairman, does that mean you could not run for president?
Oh, Al, I'll think about that stuff in 2015. Right now, I'm just focused on here and the now and tonight.
Hey, Paul,
I'll worry about all those things later.
Paul, John Sununu here. Are you old enough to run for president? John Sununu here. You heard it.
Hey, John, hey, Sununu.
I'm doing great. Hey, listen, I get 5 words.
Good. Yes, technically I am.
5 words. Tax reform. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Good. You actually stuck with the 5. I am ready to do tax reform.
What's the plan?
Yes, absolutely.
Is the Senate
Say
ready?
that again?
Is the Senate ready, and what's the plan?
Yeah, well, as you know, John, there's a way of doing it with 51 votes, but I think to do real tax reform the right way, it probably would have to take 60 votes, and we'll see. Let's look at what happens tonight. I think we're going to win the Senate. Unfortunately, I don't think we won your old seat tonight in New Hampshire. I'm still waiting to see what happened to Ed Gillespie. If you got any news on that, I'd love to know. But I think with Cory Gardner winning, with Joni Ernst on the cusp of winning, and I think we'll probably do well in December in Louisiana, I feel like we're going to win the Senate. So I think we've got a very good chance of it. People know we need to lower tax rates. We know that the American tax system is among the worst in the industrialized world. And if we want to create jobs, bring money back into our country for investment, we got to do tax reform.
All right. Hands full. Good luck.
Good seeing you, Sununu.
Congressman, we should have congratulated you at the beginning of the segment. Congratulations on re-election. How'd you do it?
You should have warned me that Nunu was on your show. That's what you should have done.
Congressman, how did you win re-election in your tough district this time?
We did well. I don't even know the numbers, actually, but we're doing really well.
Finally, let me ask you about Mitt Romney.
They called it a long time ago, so I feel good.
Mitt Romney's a good friend of yours, and he campaigned hard for Republicans. He says he's not interested in running for president. How much did he contribute to Republicans having a good cycle? And what do you think it says that he's so popular now, not just with Republicans, but in a lot of these purple states?
He's very popular. I think he'd make a fantastic president. I wish he would run for president again, but he says he's not running and he has no plans on running. You know, I think it's a little bit of buyer's remorse. I think what we have in 2013, 2014 is what I call big government in practice. The challenge that Mitt and I had was we felt like we were competing against the Obama rhetoric, the promise of big government, because Obama passed his program in 2009, 2010, delayed implementing it like Dodd-Frank, Obamacare, all these regulations until 2013, 2014, and now we see what it looks like. And by the way, the results, they don't look anything like the rhetoric that was used to sell it. So big government in practice, what Obama's programs actually look like now that they're actually occurring, look nothing like what he said they would look like in 2012. And I think people see that. And Mitt Romney predicted so much of that. And I think that's why Mitt is in good standing with the American people. And I think that's why candidates across the country are begging for him to come, because he was clairvoyant, he was right. And I think the solutions that he offered the country would have been far better for America. And I think we now know that.
Congressman, big enough night for you that you're entitled to break your normal dietary regime and have a brat and a brew to celebrate. Congratulations. Nice to talk to you.
I had a cheeseburger. Does that count?
Oh, it totally counts. But you got to have the beer, too.
Guys.
Thanks, Congressman.
Depends on how much cheese is on that burger. That's the only question.